Hi, it's me again, Jack Wallen. You know me. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But either way, you're here, I'm here. Let's chat. So what I want to discuss today is, actually I was going to talk about something very different that really only mattered to writers. But I was out for a run and something hit me. And this something has been creeping up on me for a while now. And it was born of, well, kind of not a tragic circumstances, but a less than good situation. What I want to talk about with you today is the idea that you do not ever have to be left behind. As an artist, as a human. Let me go back a ways. When I was growing up, I lived under very poor and less than ideal circumstances. But not only was my family poor financially, they were poor in motivation and ideology and ideas and artistry. And it looked like I was going to follow in those footsteps. And then one magic day, I discovered theater, and the rest was history. I escaped that small town. But very quickly, I realized that along the way, I had to make things happen for myself. Because if I didn't make them happen, they simply wouldn't. And I tested that theory over and over again. I would make something happen, and it would happen. And then I would sit back and relax and wait for something to happen for and to me. And inevitably, like clockwork, it didn't happen. And this followed me into adulthood, well into adulthood, even to now, into my 50s. Yeah, I said it, into my 50s. So now I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I had a professional acting career for quite a while. And during that career, I realized that Actors Equity didn't have much in the way of a retirement plan. So I decided I needed, to make something happen for myself. And that something happened to be writing. I realized that I could tell a story. I could write dialogue. I could create interesting and multidimensional characters, thanks to my actor training. And so I set out to do just that. I started writing my first book, but I very quickly realized that I had no idea what I was doing. Not on the story side, not on the actual writing side. I had no idea how the publishing industry worked. I didn't study it. I had no friends that were involved in it. I was alone, or so it felt. And I started sending pitches to agents and publishers and got absolutely nothing. Well, that's not true. I got loads and loads of rejections. I still have the envelope with all of those rejections. And it was pretty defeating at first. And then I realized, or I remembered, the thing that got me out of the world that I was looking like I was inevitably going to fall into, that it was my trap. And I thought to myself, why don't I just make this happen for myself? And then Amazon came along, and they created the Amazon Desktop Publishing, which was in beta at the time. And I applied to be a part of the beta program, and I got accepted. And I submitted my first book, which happened to be Shiro. Oh, I love that series. Haven't written in that series in many a year, but I sure did love writing it. And I remember to this day when I sold my first copy of Shiro, and it was joyful. I sold one book, and it was celebratory. That was a pretty big milestone for me. I made it happen. I didn't wait around for somebody else. I stopped submitting to publishers and agents because it seemed like I couldn't find an audience for these books that I had written because they didn't really fit into anything, which is kind of the story of my life. I don't fit into any one category. And part of that was by design. I have never in my life wanted to belong, wanted to fit. I wanted to be my own person. I wanted to be my own artist. So I said, to heck with the trends, to heck with the rules, I'm going to do this my way. And I embarked on a career as a writer on my own, well, with the help of Amazon. And then that led to a publisher. And here I am. But none of this would have happened had I not said to myself, just make it happen. And that brings me to right now. I have, of late, been bemoaning my career as an actor and how in the city in which I live, it has stalled out mightily. And I'm not okay with that. Because theater was my first passion. Acting was my first passion. And I haven't said this to anybody yet. You, whoever's out there listening, is the first person that's going, or will be the first people to hear these words come out of my mouth. But once again, I have decided, no. Once again, I am thinking about, because it's really just in the consideration phase, it's not even in the planning stage. I am thinking about making it happen for myself. How am I going to do that? This is crazy. This is crazy because, no, I'm not even going to say that. I was about to say because I'm in my 50s, but to hell with that. People change course throughout the entirety of their lives. And if you become afraid to change course simply because of a number, then you are giving into your fear. And you should not be afraid of a number. You are only as old as you think. And trust me, I don't think that I'm in my 50s. I still think that I'm in my 20s or 30s. So I think anything is possible, which reminds me of back when I was in graduate school at Purdue University, boiler up, as it were. Back then, when I was studying acting, I was absolutely certain that anything was possible. And the only thing that was impossible was thinking that something wasn't possible. I was absolutely certain of that. That with the right approach, with enough creativity, with enough energy, and enough kindness, anything was truly possible. And I graduated, and I made things happen over and over again. I sought things out, and I made it happen. And then something strange happened along the way. I got a little complacent. And part of that, I think, has to do with, and I'm not blaming the theater, but part of it has to do with me becoming comfortable because I became a member of a rep company for a theater. And I was a member of that rep company for 10 beautiful years. And I just assumed that it would always be there. And it wasn't. Eventually, that rep company went away. And I had become so complacent and comfortable in that when I left that rep company, all of a sudden I thought, oh, I don't know what to do now. I had lost that philosophy of making things happen for me. And complacency became the name of the game. Which is why this moment right here is kind of frightening for me. Because this is a huge unknown. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look at this as not a possibility for failure, but a possibility for success. Yeah, it may fail. What it is I'm going to tell you that I'm going to try to do, it might fail. It might fail in a glorious blaze of fire. But it also may succeed. And the possibility of success should always, always overshadow the possibility of failure. Now, what is it that I'm thinking about doing? Again, just thinking, because this is not going to be easy. What I'm thinking about doing, quite simple, is starting my own theater company. I know. Oh my gosh. That's crazy talk. I already have the name. The name is going to be from when I was going to create an acting studio here in Louisville, which was going to be called The Butterfly Effect. There's a reason for that name. I'll get into it more when I can give you some more details on what it is that I'm going to attempt to do with this theater company. But the name will be The Butterfly Effect. And it's going to be unique. It's going to be doing something that I don't think is being done to this extent, at least in this city. And it has me really excited. Excited because of the possibilities. Because I believe for this particular idea, the possibilities are actually quite endless. And I think it's something that the city really needs. Now, I know there are going to be people out there that are going to be adamant in saying this city does not need another theater company because there are already too many theater companies and not enough spaces to house the theater companies. And I understand that. But I'm going to approach this in such a way where that might not be an issue. I'm trying to be smart about this. And that's why I'm saying that this is only in the thinking process, because I have a lot of thought to put into this. But my point here and now was not necessarily to announce that, oh, I've got a big project that I'm thinking about doing. The idea behind this little video is to tell you that you should never allow yourself to fall behind. Why? Because you are full of capability and possibility. And there is no reason for you to fall behind. The only reason that you could come up with to fall behind and not do the things that you want to do is complacency and fear. Yes, you might fail. I might fail. I have failed. I will fail again. But if you and I and we and us let failure keep us from doing the things we want and love to do, we are failing ourselves. Yeehaw! Sorry about that. I don't know where that came from. And I believe it's not the worst thing that you can do, but it's a tragedy to fail yourself because of fear. Let the idea of success and achieving something important to you drive you forward. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about financial success, although that would be wonderful. I'm just talking about succeeding at this thing that you want to do. I wanted to be a writer. I became a writer. I made myself a writer. I have wanted to do a lot of things, and I have done them, sometimes out of sheer will. I have inserted myself into things in such a way that I could achieve something. I don't live in fear that I'm going to fail. And I'm not going to do that now, and I'm not going to do that ever. And neither should you. You should live under the idea that you could succeed. And sure, you're going to stumble. You're going to have trouble. It's going to be hard. You're going to fail. You're going to get up and you're going to try again. The important thing is that every time you stumble, you get back up and keep going. Don't let age define you. Don't let fear define you. Don't let other people define you. Because trust me, I have had, when I was deciding whether or not to start an acting studio, I had plenty of people say, don't even bother. And I listened to them, and I regret that I listened to them. And I'm not going to listen to people this time. I'm going to listen to people. I'm not going to listen to the naysayers. I'm not going to allow people to tell me that I shouldn't do this simply because it's already being done. Because it's not already being done my way. The idea that is bubbling up in my head is not being done. And on that alone, the possibility of succeeding increases exponentially. And when I come up against a wall of obstacles and failure, I'm just going to keep driving forward until I either break through or I realize that it's just not meant to be. And even if it isn't meant to be, I'm not going to let it get me down. Because I know that in trying to do this, I will have learned something and I will have grown as a person and as an artist. And that, my friends, is absolutely essential. So please, if there is something that you want to do as an artist or as a human being, you owe it to yourself to try. Listen to your heart. Listen to your conscience. And by gosh, listen to your soul. If you do that, chances are pretty good. Or in the words of Larry David, pretty good. Thank you for giving me a moment of your time today. I hope you've learned something. I hope I've inspired you to do something great or small, whatever. Most importantly, just thank you for your friendship. Pass some kindness along. Do something good for somebody else. You know, the usual. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe. Otherwise, you could just pass it along to somebody else who might need to hear these words. And most importantly, I hope that you, my friends, have an absolutely wonderful and inspirational day.